time to get serious. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I am taking you through all of the series that I would love to read in 2023. These are either series that I've already started prior to this year, but I'd love to finish them or continue them as much as they have gotten out, or they're new series that I would love to read at least the first book of already. There are a couple of series that I will have tried to read in 2022 and I probably didn't get as far with them as I would like to have had, but I've enjoyed them so much that I'm going to put them onto this list again. But there are also some new additions into the list this year. First one up is Dear Mrs. Bird by A.J. Pierce, and this is the second book, Yours Cheerfully, because this is where I'm going to be starting with my journey for this year. I have already read and loved Dear Mrs. Bird. I read it in, I think, August or September of last year. It is historical fiction, it is set during World War II, and Mrs. Bird is an advised columnist who works for a newspaper in London, I think the Evening Standard or something like that. She gives advice to women who are writing into the paper, looking for some advice on how to improve their lives. But there are a couple of topics that Mrs. Bird will not touch. She will not touch marital problems, she will not touch sexual problems, she will not touch anything that she sees as degrading or immoral. So when Emmeline is hired as her secretary, instead of combing through all the letters and finding the unlawful things, Emmeline decides to take it upon herself to answer some of these letters in the style of Mrs. Bird, in the guise of Mrs. Bird, and things really start to escalate from there. I don't know how this is going to go. I don't actually remember how Dear Mrs. Bird stopped, but I'm really intrigued to see how this is going to go. And I also have a NetGalley copy of the third book of the series, so hopefully I will be able to get finished it within this year. A series that I would love to start this year is All Our Hidden Gifts by Caroline O'Donoghue. This copy of the first book was gifted to me by Shannon from 155 Books. This is All Our Hidden Gifts, which follows a group of teenagers who are living in Ireland, and they discover tarot and they discover that they have witchy kind of powers or vibes. But one of their group goes missing and it's on them to try and find out what has happened, try and bring the girl back. And I believe that there's also a sapphic romance in this that continues into the second book, The Gifts That Bind Us. I think there is the third book in this series coming out sometime in this year. I'm not entirely sure when, but if that does happen, it's going straight into my account. Next up is the Modern Dating series by Alicia Rai. I read the first book of this, The Right Swipe, back in February of 2022 and I really enjoyed it. I listened to the audiobook, it was a dual narrator and I really loved that part of it. But I also really loved the STEM representation, the Desi representation, the Indian representation in this book. So it's definitely one that I'm going to try and go back to the series for the rest of the year. I have got a copy of First Comes Like on my Kindle and I'm pretty sure I've got a copy of Girl Gone Viral either on my Kindle or it's available to me as a script copy. So I am hopeful that I'm going to be able to get the entire series finished. Maybe over February, maybe again when it's kind of Valentine's month and it feels a little bit more lovey, maybe that's the best time to get to it. Next up is the STEMinist novellas by Ali Hazelwood. I know that Ali Hazelwood can be very Marmite on BookTube. People either love her stuff or they will not touch it with a 40-foot barge pole. I am in the first part, but not very firmly in it. I think I'm kind of on the doorstep. But I have got really high hopes for this one. I've also got a copy of Love Theoretically on my TBR for this year. But I'm really going to try and get to these because I feel like they're going to be short, they're going to be quick, they're going to be ones that I can kind of, don't have to read all three of them in one go. I can probably dip in, dip out. I know that one of them is set on or near Antarctica or on an Antarctic exploration, and for some reason Antarctica fascinates me. So hopefully that's going to be a big draw into this book for me. Next up is the Bergman Brothers series by Chloe Leese. I have already listened to the first book of this, Only If It's You, and I wasn't totally in love with it, but I think I'm going to give it another try. I think the main character was just somebody that I couldn't gel with. I didn't really find her very appealing to me. But I am hopeful for the rest of the series because there's 5 entire brothers to get to know. So hopefully one of them is going to hit the spot for me. I know that they are all going to deal with different tropes. I know that the family has Swedish heritage. I think they're Swedish American. So I'm really hoping to see a couple of Swedish influences in their lives. I know that in Only If It's You, they were cooking Swedish meatballs as a meal, for instance, one evening. So hopefully that's going to be something that will pop up again. Next up is a series that I would like to finish, and I have one book left to read in it, and that is the Walsh Sister series by Marian Keyes. This is The Mystery of Mercy Close. It's the 5th book in the series, and it follows Helen, who is the second to youngest or youngest sister of the 5. I have loved all of the other 4 of them so far. Rachel's Holiday, which is the second book of the series, is by far one of my favourite books of all time. So I have got a little bit of high hopes. The series kind of dipped for me a little bit. I really loved Watermelon. I absolutely adored Rachel's Holiday. Angels kind of brought it down for me a little bit, but anybody out there brought it back up a little bit more. So hopefully this is going to be ending the series on a high for me. I know that there is also a novella of Mammy Walsh's A to Z Guide to Life. So if I get this one finished, I'm going to try and find a library copy or a Kindle copy or something of the A to Z Guide to Life. Another series I have just one more to finish is the Crazy Rich Asians series by Kevin Kwan. I've heard that this one is a kind of a really good end to the series. One of my friends who has read this one absolutely loved it. She said that she really found the Rich People Problems was her favourite one of the series. And I absolutely adore the first book, Crazy Rich Asians. So I'm kind of wondering if it's going to hit the heights of that, if I'm going to have as much of a connection to it as maybe she did. So let's see how it goes on. I have also got a copy of Kevin's other book, Sex and Vanity. And I know that this isn't part of the series. I know it's a complete standalone. But for some reason I have this blockage in my mind that I can't get onto Sex and Vanity without having finished Rich People Problems. So maybe if I get to that one this year, it's going to be 2 ticked off my TBR. Another series that I would love to continue this year is the Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman. Richard Osman's books are kind of a family deal for us at the moment. My brother, who's not a big reader, has already read the Thursday Murder Club. I think he has read The Man Who Died Twice, and he's next in line for The Bullet That Missed. My dad has read all 3. He absolutely adored them. But I'm going to have to go back home to pick up copies of The Man Who Died Twice and The Bullet That Missed. So I think these are going to be get them in the summer, read them in maybe October when it feels kind of thrillery, when it feels kind of that murder vibes. But it's definitely a series that I would love to read because the 2 of them have been hyping it up and talking about it so much that I just want to get involved in the conversation now. Another series that I would love to continue is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Sakaguchi. I know that there is a 4th book coming out in this series, but I have got all 3 that are published so far already. I have already read Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I read that in maybe 2018, 2019, and I absolutely loved it. It was such a great story. It's heartbreaking, but also heartwarming at the same time. And I really love the idea of a time travel cafe in Tokyo where there's some rules, where there are some stipulations, but you get to go back and visit people from your past, people who you haven't spoken to in ages, people who have passed away, people who you miss for any particular reason. The idea of it is such a great book and it's such a fascinating concept that I'm really excited to see how it's going to be developed over the other 2 books. And the final series that I would love to get ticked off in 2023 is the Beartown trilogy by Fredrik Backman. I've already read Beartown. I read it in December of 2021 and it turned out to be one of my books of the year. I did put it off a little bit for a couple of reasons. It's got a very heavy topic in it. It deals with rape, it deals with sexual assault, it deals with victim blaming and victim shaming and slut shaming. So it can be quite a heavy read. But I know that the second book in this has been out for some time, Us Against Them, I think it's called. And I've got a Kindle copy from a Kindle deal a couple of months ago. Also, I know that The Winners, which is the 3rd book in this series, came out, I think, towards the latter end of 2022. So now that the entire trilogy is finished, it feels like now is the time to go back to it and pep myself up and start picking up the next 2. Those are all of the series that I would love to either get started or get finished in 2023. Are there any of those that you have heard of? Is there one that you think that I should start with? Or what series have you got your eye on for 2023? If you'd like to leave me a comment but you can't think of anything you'd like to say, then please just leave me the link emoji. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.